What's good, Attribution fans? It's your RJ Karthik, and today I got you with episode 10 of Attribution Radio. We're about to dive into some real-time, cutting-edge parts of the space. With the influencer industry having grown from just $1.6 billion in 2016 to $21.2 billion now in 2023, clearly it's a new dimension for marketers to acknowledge and use to their advantage. Today, we're going to hear about how this influence is measured and the details about how advanced attribution tests are being used to measure B2B businesses as well. You don't want to miss this. Check this out.
I think there's a few questions that popped up, right? What was the question that was in the class Slack?
I
Yes.
posted on the influencers. So how do we track, or how do we measure things?
Right. So the most classic influencer measurement is kind of what somebody like Paul would do, right? They would give a unique link for every influencer, which would have like some sort of a code, a UTM code. And then you track the UTM parameters on the site, and then you report on it. And that's how you know influencers are driving traffic for you. That is the most classic way to do it. Let me pause there. Paul, would you agree? How do you track influencers today?
Yeah, we just built a tool for our influencer team. Essentially, we'll just input the handle, they'll have a campaign type, they'll have what type of influencer it is, whether it's micro, macro, celebrity, so things like that. And then it generates a short link that they can hand off to the influencer to track their performance. And
right.
Easiest thing.
That's right. It's like a little bit.ly link. End of the day, you end up with a short link, and that's it has all the tracking code embedded in it, and that's how you use the tracking. Okay? The problem with that, when it works, great. If it's a strong enough influencer program that you get a lot of clicks out of it, then you start there. Now, when you have a lot of view-based traffic, a view-based influence, where people are not clicking, but they're influenced by the influencer, and then eventually buy independently by searching or whatnot, it gets much harder. So I don't know if you can caught what Bailey was saying along the way in what Textile does. Textile they have a big influencer program. A lot of these brands are big influencer programs. They actually run ads through the influencers' handles themselves. So they'll go talk to, for example, they may go to Rihanna's handle and run Textile ads through Rihanna's handle. And now you get all the last click reporting, click-based reporting, view-through reporting from Facebook or Facebook or YouTube or whatever. And now you can run classic lift tests and classic MMMs and classic geo match market holdout tests and all that stuff, right? So that's the next frontier of this. But then you have to have relationships to be able to run ads through their handles, and that's just another part of the operations process.
And one thing we also do is every influencer we work with, we get the rights to use their content, and so we'll just do our own branded ads using those influencers. Then understand how, because we've tested both, doing it on our handle versus influencer handle, and typically the results have kind of been pretty equal. Comparable. And so essentially either one works great, but being able to repurpose that content to understand which influencers are resonating for your brand is another great way to do it.
Amazing. So, but how do you reach the influencer's audience though? So, but you have the content, but really when she posts on her handle, all her audience and her followers watch it. When you post from your handle, you get the content, but don't get the followers, right? So how do you address that?
I mean, for us, it's
didn't matter.
Not too bad, because our audience, our demographic is so broad that it pretty much already encompasses those audiences of that specific influencer. We're going to touch them regardless, because the scale at which we advertise, the amount of impressions that we generate, we're still kind of hitting those people. Even if we were to use that handle, we'd still go broad, right? So it encompasses their audiences along with all the other audiences that resonate with our brand.
Okay, interesting point. Okay, that's a new angle, actually. Yeah, go ahead, man.
I was going to ask you, are you seeing a pretty big? Maybe you said this before in an earlier class, Paul, but are you seeing a pretty big lift with the influencers and what they're driving to Laser Away?
Yeah, so our influencer program on the organic side with the short links generates a good amount of revenue and leads. On the advertising side, we're 99% influencer content for marketing, and it's all video. short
Okay.
and medium form, short and long form.
And then do you have to handle the conversations with the influencers that like aren't driving traffic? I know it's kind of a unrelated question, but
Well,
like,
the nice thing too with our model is we don't pay any influencers. It's all trade. So if they don't
oh,
perform,
okay.
we just don't
Okay.
work with them again.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Great. So what you're saying, sorry, it's all commission based, you said, or is it like what you said? I didn't catch the answer.
It's all trade. So we give them a laser hair removal or clear and brilliant treatment. So we never have to pay them. And so we're getting the content in clinic without any cost associated really, or minimal cost.
Okay. So, but these are I'm assuming these are micro influencers, more like sort of, or are you talking about celebrities as well? And they work the same way.
Yeah, I mean, we have celebrities, we have micro influencers. I mean, we have a lot of stuff where we don't even do trade. You know, they just come in, and they'll give us a shout out or whatever. Obviously, we don't capture that content, but we do. I mean, we range from like, 20,000 followers to, millions of followers.
Very cool.
It's just the level, the amount of treatments or the type of treatments we give away will vary because, some of our treatments can be worth like $10,000. So
Right.
there's a lot of value on the treatment side.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I didn't necessarily see that the economics could work so compellingly like that. Always thought you got to cut a check for these for the posts. Okay. Great answers. Any other questions, team?
Madan, coming from an enterprise background, right? Have you seen the advanced attribution methodologies or experimentation towards this working out with B2B brands or big enterprises? Have you seen something like that?
They're doing incrementality testing is now done across the board, right? Everybody does it. No question about that. I've seen it work for B2B as well. Now, let's put B2B aside for a second. It's kind of sort of a separate case, but even for large brands, everybody's doing incrementality testing. Now, the one thing that you want to understand, this is very sort of the understanding of this concept is sort of not as well propagated. Incrementality testing is about moving markets, right? You take 5 or 6 markets and you want to move them by 5%, at least 5%, maybe 3%, but you got to at least move it by 5% is the idea, right? Well, if you're a giant brand, if you're Amex, if you're AT&T, if you're Verizon, if you're like, you can't move markets by 5%. It's just not possible. You already have, your entire media-driven portion of the sales maybe only be 5-8%. You may only drive about 8% of total business because of media. How can you move one market 5%? It's like AT&T cannot move sales by 5%. It'll be a giant, humongous number, right? And so it's not even possible. So there, I mean, for example, holdouts. A particular market may only, particular Facebook may only drive 0.5% in revenue or 1% in revenue. When you do a holdout, it's not readable. So a lot of times, therefore, what we would do is take small markets and do scale testing as opposed to holdout testing, even on channels that you're spending a lot of money on. And even if you're spending a lot of money on catalog or Facebook or TV, you will take a bunch small 3 or 4 markets and double, triple down and see if there's actual lift in those markets. And that's the only way to read them, okay? So when you work with enterprise brands, everybody knows the word holdout testing. So I would be working with giant brands and everybody wants to do holdout testing without really recognizing that you're probably not going to read anything from it because it's going to drop a couple of percentage points, and a couple of percentage points is just natural variation in your markets. And you will end up with an inconclusive test on the other side. And, it'll be like a mess, just all communications mess on the other side. So what you want to do is you take 4 or 5 markets and try and do scale testing. You're probably going to get much better reads on it. So number 1. Number 2, you want to use MMMs to figure out where to even test, which channels to test, which channels are now picking up some juice. So you can identify, okay, these channels are already showing some juice. So maybe that's probably going to give you some results that are testing worthy. Others maybe are not picking up anything, so very likely you won't read anything. So you want to pick the right kind of testing methodology that might work for the type of channels that are in their media mix and how they might be working already, okay? So those are all little nuances. There's a conversation in a prior class. Really, the rubber hits the road when you deal with the nuances, okay? A lot of this the theory allows you to really kind of embrace and say, okay, you now know if you all the unknowns become knowns for you, right? Or you have known unknowns at this point after this class. But actually, when you apply all these techniques in for a specific brand, the actual nuances and the idiosyncrasies of that specific circumstance, that's where the rubber hits the road, and you can actually create value. Okay, I mean, expect it won't just be like copy and paste. It won't be like 4 times 4 is 16, so you're going to end up with 4 times 4 again. No, it'll be like 3,444 times 4,444. So you got to apply the multiplication methodology. The answers almost will never be the same. And that's where it gets interesting, it's fun, it's exciting, but it's also a lot of critical thinking, which people don't necessarily do all the time, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Do you ever apply the methodology of like MMMs and incrementality testing to other things? Like, say, if I wanted to understand the ideal service mix for our company, right? Because right now, like, we have a strategy where we're pushing really hard on a single service, but potentially that could be losing us revenue, or
Service
being able
mix
to
as
take
in like,
inputs, like how we sell services, right? Because we have a pretty decent sized catalog of services we offer.
Yeah.
Figuring out what the media allocation should be by service versus by channel.
So we call it product mix, but absolutely, a very medium mix can absolutely answer the question. You can also do testing for it. Absolutely, you can also do testing for it. Depends whether or not it's modelable. Answer is in your data. Whether you've done a lot of different service mixes over the last n number of years. Can we take some data and can we correlate, do some Bayesian statistics, and figure out are you able to see some conditional probabilities move because of it, right? If the answer is true, yes, then yes, you can build a model. But you should almost always expect these models to be directional, Paul. One of the things is that they're not going to give you black and white answers. They're going to give you, directionally, yeah, but you'll almost always have to follow with something that's a more design treatment. I'm going to take about 4 or 5 markets of whatever situation, and then you're going to like make some changes in a very deliberate fashion so that you can see if that changes will actually impact a more profitable result or a more impactful outcome or whatever it is. That's when you'll know for sure that, okay, this new service mix or new pricing mix or whatever it is actually more efficient. So all these methods that we're talking about are somewhat like observed. You're hypothesizing an experiment with observed data. You already have whatever happened has happened. You're saying, well, if this was a test, how would I interpret it? It's kind of the way to think about this, right? So it will kind of give you some answers that are interesting, but it will not be conclusive. And it'll require you to go back and do something. It's a design test or something very specific, what we call an intervention, to kind of identify the right answer. And then of course, it starts from there for you to figure out if it's usable or not. And just to set expectations for it, right? That's how the magic works. It always feels like you can just look at the data and the right answer will just pop out. Right answer will kind of directionally pop out. It'll be like, probably this is the right answer, but it won't have enough confidence for you to dump a bunch of money into it. It'll require one more round of something, analysis, testing, or something.
Have you ever tried it on like an operational side, like trying to figure out like employees per square foot, talk time per call to get the optimal result, stuff like that?
Those are all very testable things. When you talk about those kind of things that are customer service things, you probably can get a ton of data on it at the salesperson level, right? You can get how many calls did salesperson A take versus salesperson B and whatnot. You can do pretty strong Bayesian statistics with that, right? Very simple conditional probability stuff you can do that'll get you pretty strong reads on it. And then you can try a couple of changes. If I change it, I expect I'm going to get more lead sell through if I drive more leads to Cindy versus like Shane, and you can test it very quickly, right? That kind of analytics has been around for many years, right? By now it's kind of like you don't really need a lot of systems or whatnot. You can probably take your data right now, cut it up, and there's probably, if you've not done it before, I'm almost certainly there is a bunch of juice there for you to squeeze.
Well, I was just curious if you could feed it into like an MMM in a certain way and have an output.
You don't need MMMs. I'm saying you don't even need MMMs. You can just
I was just curious if you've ever tried that.
Oh, those MMMs have been built many times. So if I go talk to Payment, for example, Payment would have done like 100 different versions of those models by product mix, by geography mix and treatment messaging mix and pricing mix and all that stuff? Yes. Quick answer is yes. I've done a bunch, but I have to imagine Payman and Marty and other guys in the class, they probably had exposure to a bunch of these things.
Fire conversation. Now here's your ESPN style rapid fire breakdown. So what did we learn today? Number 1, influencers are pretty good at having influence. Insane, I know. Paul actually said they work with influencers and leverage user-generated content at LaserAway to promote their services, which I've actually personally seen on TikTok myself. They've built tools that generate short links for influencers to track their performance and have found success with both organic and paid influencer content through it. Between that, their cross-channel marketing efforts, and recent efforts in running geo-tests, they've been able to get a much more comprehensive understanding of the return they're receiving from their media investment dollars. And with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed that onslaught of advanced attribution wisdom, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.